2026. Kirby Air Riders is finished, and you know what that means. Nintendo kidnapped Sakurai. He's back in the Smash Bros. Dungeon. You just know that's how it went, too. The minute the clock struck midnight on Air Riders release, Nintendo came knocking at Sakurai's door, put a bag over his head, and put him at a locked him at a desk. Anyway, so the question on everybody's mind is, to what capacity is Sakurai involved with a new Smash? Like, what kind of new Smash Brothers game are we looking at for the Switch 2? That's what I want to explore here in this video. I want to go over some possibilities. I want to rule some things out. Try to come to as educated of a guess as possible for what Smash Brothers is going to look like on the Switch 2. But before I jump into all that, if you could, hit that like button and subscribe for me if you're new. It helps my channel, it helps my videos, and then I can talk about video games more, yay. So real quick, before we kind of get real deep into the weeds of it, I figured I would offer up a little bit of my own perspective here, you know, since being graced with Smash Ultimate so many years ago. I can't believe it's been as long as it has. Just so you know where I'm coming from when I tell you what I'm about to tell you. So as of this minute, I have almost 1,000 hours on Smash Ultimate. This literally was the Smash game of my dreams. The entire Smash roster from all over the Smash history in one game. Everyone is here. Like, everyone? Like, really? Even that guy? The character of my dreams finally making the Smash Brothers cut? I literally would have dreams about K. Rool making it into a Smash Bros. Game, man. I've been begging for this character since the Brawl days. I would log into the Smash Dojo every day in hopes that he would show up. What an insanely magical moment his reveal was for me. Like, just one of the top moments in all of my gaming days, man. So, with all that said, after nearly 1,000 hours of Ultimate, I'm tired of Ultimate. I've got Ultimate fatigue. Fantastic game, but I am ready for a shakeup. There are a lot of things I would like to see from Smash Brothers in the future, and so this is kind of my own little personal wish list right here, you know, in this next little part of the video for the next Smash. And then I'll get into some other possibilities for, you know, some Smash content that we might have in the not-so-distant future. So for me personally, what I would love to have from a new Smash Brothers game is a new Smash Brothers game. More specifically, I think it would be really cool if they did essentially just like a pseudo reboot for Smash. I think it would be so cool if we could go back and revamp movesets for characters, like long-standing series veterans, characters like Mario and Donkey Kong and Link and Samus. I could go on, like I really could. A lot of these characters, you know, from like N64 and Melee, they've had plenty of new games in their respective franchises over the years that I think you could reference for lots of new, like, moveset material. I think just revamping movesets for characters that have been around for a long time would go a long way to making a new Smash feel just totally fresh again. But to go that distance, to go back and just, like, revamp and overhaul a lot of those characters, that would probably mean that a lot of characters are also going to have to be cut. And this is where I give my big 2 thumbs up right here. Cause yeah, let's make it happen. Let's trim some fat. Let's get a whole bunch of these characters out of this roster, you know? Just find an image of the roster and take a big chomp out of it. And whatever you're left with is what we get. I would honestly be totally okay with sanding down the Smash Brothers roster to like a pretty big degree, you know? Though if I'm being real, I don't even know that they would shave it down like super significantly, because I also don't think that they would revamp like every character or anything like that. I mean, they totally could, and that would be cool. That'd be fine by me. But yeah, I do think it's inevitable that if they were to do a Smash Brothers refresh, yeah, there would be some cuts. There would definitely be some cuts. I might do a video at some point about shaving down the Smash Brothers roster, you know, cutting out a bunch of characters that I think, you know, might be a little bit redundant or unnecessary to bring back for a new one. Let me know if you would want me to piss you off with that video in the comments below. But anyway, yeah, so like, you know, overhauling the art style would be another big one. I don't know if this is a hot take, but I wasn't ever really like super crazy about how washed out the colors kind of look in Smash Ultimate. They're just, I don't know, they're not as vibrant as they were in even the Wii U game. I think I prefer the way the Wii U game looks over Smash Ultimate. Again, I don't know if this is a hot take. Just compare Donkey Kong in Smash 4 to Smash Ultimate. His fur looks like mud. He looks like a muddy guy. Speaking of mud, the game feels like mud, especially online, man. Having that input delay is brutal, especially online. And on top of that, okay, over the last couple of years, I've sunk in hundreds of hours into to Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl 2 and Rivals of Aether 2. In those games, when you press a button, things happen. In Smash Ultimate's online, I provide an input and I have to wait 3 business days for my attack to appear. I really don't know how I put up with this for as long as I did. I guess you just kind of get used to it after a while. Especially since Smash was really the only platform fighter I was playing for years. But now that there are games with clearly better inputs and online to directly compare it to, yeah, it's rough. It's rough revisiting Ultimate's online. But it's not even just the online. I mean, like, it's present in offline modes as well, maybe to a lesser degree, of course. But yeah, I think just getting an overhaul with the game feel, that would be nice for a new Smash Brothers game. I'll rapid fire through the rest of this, you know, costumes for characters I think would be a really cool thing. I feel like that was a missed opportunity in Ultimate for them to not, I can't speak, I'm sorry. It was a missed opportunity for them to not have costumes, at least as like DLC or something in Ultimate. I don't know why they didn't do it. Mario had some fun costumes, and then there was stuff like, you know, Bowser Jr. has like the Koopalings as his alternate costumes. Like, that's fun. Stuff like that is cool. I like that. They really should have had Captain K. Rool. I wanted that. Obviously, with every new Smash game, you want a couple of newcomers, a couple of fun new additions. So yeah, I think that would be cool. And the biggest pie in the sky want for a new Smash game that I don't think is ever gonna happen with Sakurai at the helm is some sort of new story mode, you know, along the lines of a subspace emissary. I don't think it's ever gonna happen though. So that's kind of my own little wish list for what I would want from a new Smash Brothers game. Sakurai explained on his YouTube channel that, you know, when he's working on a project and it reaches the later stages, that's usually when pre-planning for his next game begins to take place. Teams start to assemble and the pipeline gets put into place, so it's likely that whatever is taking shape with Smash behind the scenes right now, it's been in motion for a while now. So this is where we get to the possibility that seems to be on a lot of minds right now, and including my own. And it's the possibility of having a Smash Ultimate Switch 2 edition. Smash Ultimate Deluxe. Something like, you know, all the DLC included, a new wave of fighters, resolution and frame rate enhancements, and probably not much else. It's a very real possibility. Switch 2 editions of games have been a quick way for Nintendo to fill in the shoes for some of their core titles. New Kirby game ain't gonna be ready for a hot minute. Here's some DLC. New 2D Mario is still a ways out. Here, baby, have some DLC. I think if Nintendo wanted a Smash Brothers game sooner rather than later, a Switch 2 edition may be highly likely to grace us within a year or two even. Especially if, you know, the pipeline for this has been laid out already and it's been in the works for a little bit. A Switch 2 edition would easily fast-track Smash onto the Switch 2 scene. However, you know, there is a little bit of an issue that I think they could run into, and it's that this runs the risk of fracturing the Smash player base between the Switch 1 and the Switch 2. I don't know that this would be the healthiest outcome for not just Smash Ultimate, but if they decided to release an entirely brand new game later in the Switch 2's lifespan. I think that would probably be a pretty big sales risk for them, with a Switch 2 edition potentially eating into the sales of a new game, or, you know, the other way around. But especially if a new game has a smaller roster, smaller stage selection, smaller everything to compensate for new features and adjustments, I feel like a lot of people would look at that and question why they would take the game with the smaller amount of content for potentially a bigger price tag. That's already potentially a hurdle that they're gonna need to overcome, considering Ultimate is totally playable on the Switch 2 right now as it is. So, you know, basically, if Nintendo wants to extend the life of Ultimate with a Switch 2 edition, I think there's a real chance that this will just be our Smash game for the foreseeable future, maybe even the whole generation. Something like that isn't necessarily unheard of. I mean, we saw them do it with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. That was kind of supposed to be more of a stopgap title until Mario Kart World, but then the explosive success of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe just had them keep it around. I guess the difference is that Ultimate has kind of already had its time in the sun during the Switch, but I don't know, dropping some new characters in a game that's already the biggest Smash game probably make for some easy bucks. But the thing I'm not totally convinced of is that I just don't know if Sakurai would want to do that. Obviously, I can't read his mind. Maybe the man sees this as an opportunity to, you know, quickly crank out some Smash content in a year or two, call it a deluxe, and move on to something else. But I feel like if Sakurai is gonna give more of his life energy to Smash, as he tends to do, it'll just be with a brand new entry. There's a story Sakurai told about how during the Wii era, Nintendo's president Satoru Iwata revealed that Smash would be coming to the Wii. But he announced it before he ever even spoke to Sakurai, and at this point in time, Sakurai was now an independent developer, and so when Iwata spoke to him shortly after the announcement, he basically told Sakurai that if he didn't return, they would just port Melee to the Wii with online features and call it a day. And so, this is why we have Smash Brothers Brawl. This story sticks out in my mind, you know, it makes me believe that Sakurai wouldn't be satisfied just resting on his laurels, you know? This is what makes me believe that if Sakurai's gonna return to Smash, he's gonna do it the proper way and just develop a whole new entry. But so, you know, well, so here's the thing about that. It's likely that if Sakurai is developing a brand new Smash Bros. Game, it's probably still a few years away. See, my gut feeling is to say that I don't think Nintendo would want to go several more years without a Smash Bros. Game on the Switch 2, but you know, now that we're getting close to a year into the Switch 2, it does seem like Nintendo is taking their time rolling out the red carpet for some of their big boy franchises, and they're kind of in a position where they don't really need to rush these things, nor would I want them to. You know, that was something that bothered me a lot during the Switch, games feeling really bare bones at launch, and you know, just kind of filling in the blanks months after launch. Even Ultimate was missing some modes that had been in every Smash game prior to it. Truthfully, you know, the Switch 2 is kind of more of an extension of the Switch ecosystem rather than a complete replacement for the Switch. It plays all the same games and, you know, it's receiving additional content for those games as well. This is something we've been seeing for years over on PlayStation and Xbox too. You know, lots of cross-generational titles, games that get updated over time with new additional content, all that kind of fun stuff. It's sort of just a product of the times, you know, game development requirements have just ballooned just completely out of control, and so the development timeline is much bigger and longer than it ever used to be. But yeah, so, you know, basically, as long as you're buying games in the Switch ecosystem, I'm pretty sure Nintendo is one happy camper. This isn't the Switch where Nintendo was in panic mode off the heels of the Wii U's failure and needed to front load as much content onto the system as possible. To me, it kind of seems like they can afford to wait a little bit for a new Smash. And on top of this, you know, I feel like if Nintendo were really in a rush to get Smash on the system, don't you think they would have not greenlit Kirby Air Riders? Well, never mind, I don't know if they really would have been in a position to do much bargaining. Sakurai holds the keys to the castle. If they told Sakurai to go take a hike, they probably just wouldn't be getting a Smash, period. That's my slightly more cynical take on when we could possibly expect some Smash Bros goodness. But let me shine some light on a funny little job listing that may indicate that Smash may not be too far off after all. So in December of 2023, Bandai Namco announced the creation of Studio 2 and Studio S, which are basically like specialized teams to work on contracted like Nintendo projects. One of the job listings, well, let's just say, it smells an awful lot like Smash Bros. The listing says it would involve the construction of stage specifications, level designs, etc. for side view action games. Like that description, it just fits the bill for Smash. We know that Sakurai began working on Kirby Air Riders in 2022. And the thing is, like, we don't really know how long Kirby Air Riders was in development. I mean, it's very well possible that that game was finished for a little while, and Sakurai may have been in the Smash Bros dungeon for quite a bit longer than some of us might think. If they've been hiring since December 2023, let's just say for speculation's sake, that it began full-scale development later into 2024. That would mean that Smash Bros has already been in development for like 2 years already. Generally speaking, Smash Bros games take about 2 to 3 years to develop. If you look at the development timelines, that's about it. So you know everything I just said in this video up to this point about how it could be a couple years away? Well, it's possible that that could all just be bullshit. Wouldn't it be insane if Smash gets revealed and released, like, for the holidays this year? Do you know how fucking insane that would be? It's really hard to pinpoint exactly how long Smash has been in development without really knowing exactly when Air Riders finished up. But even if we assume that, like, development didn't start until exactly after Air Riders was finished, right? We know that the pre-planning at least began sometime before Air Riders was finished. So I don't know. Who knows, right? Maybe we won't have to wait that long after all, I don't know. I'm literally just speculating, I'm just talking out of my ass. I guess we'll find out soon enough. So yeah, I do think a new game would probably be the way to go. And I'm not just saying that because that's what I personally would want to see out of the series. Smash Ultimate is going to be a tough act to follow. You know, Sakurai even admitted this during Ultimate's development. It's the pinnacle of everything the series had been building up to. So really, you know, why not try to give this series a bit of a fresh start? Revamp movesets, trim some fat off the roster, refine the game feel, for God's sake, improve the online, but most important of all, give it to us when it's ready. No need to rush these things, man. I think there's plenty of games out there for us to keep ourselves busy with. Personally, I'm not in any rush for Smash. I'm not even sure that I'll ever reach the same heights of excitement for speculation and character reveals that I had leading up to Ultimate. It's such a huge game that granted so many wishes for me. I think it would be way more exciting for me personally if they didn't try to follow in Ultimate's footsteps. And there's a part of me that thinks that they also recognize this over at Nintendo. So yeah, that's about my thoughts. That's my thoughts about there on the Smash Bros game. My brain is kind of ouching a little bit right now. Ultimately, whatever we get is whatever we get, and yeah. What do you guys think? I don't know. Do you think they're gonna do a Switch 2 edition, or do you think they'll do a new game? I guess it really could go either way. I don't know. I'm just a guy. I'm just talking out my ass, okay? Whatever you think, leave your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear from you. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new. I got a new member series where I'm talking about games that I'm completing in my backlog, so you can access that if you become a channel member today or a Patreon supporter. If you become a Patreon, either way, your support's appreciated. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening. I'll catch you guys in the next one.